We need a standard because there's a lot of inconsistency going on in how people are preventing dropped objects out in the field. There's a lot of makeshift solutions being made, so people are using duct tape, paracord, other things like that, and making their own solutions on the job site that aren't tested or validated by any means. There's also a lot of manufacturers that have no guidance as to how to design and test the equipment, so they may or may not be doing it. So what this does is bring a consistent set of guidelines to help manufacturers design, develop, test, and certify their equipment to a consistent set of guidelines. So the 121 standard will address 4 categories, the first 2 being anchor attachments and tool attachments. These are retrofit ends to the system. So a retrofit adapter being applied to an anchor, a retrofit connection point being applied to the tool. So those are the first 2. And then tool tethers, which is your retentioning system to tether your tools to that anchor. That is the 3rd category. And the final category is containers. So these are pouches, buckets, other portable or static containers that are used to secure and carry or hoist, bring equipment to and from heights. So anchor attachments, tool tethers, and containers are the 4 categories. So the standard excludes things that fall beyond the bookends of that system. So you have subsequent tool attachments and subsequent anchor attachments that are retrofittedly applied to those ends of the system. So the tools themselves won't fall within the standard, and the things that are the fixed anchors, those things are being applied to, won't fall within the system. Nor will personal protective equipment like hard hats and eyewear. Those have other standards that are applicable to those types of equipment. The standard won't address best practices as to how to use the equipment. That should be followed. You should follow the instructions of the manufacturer in that regard. And hoisting itself and material handling fall outside of the standard. So that's the number one question that comes up is, will this standard be enforceable? Straightforward and formally, no. It's a voluntary consensus standard, so it's not regulation per se. Now, the argument there is that this will establish a set of best practices in terms of what type of equipment to use, and therefore, because these types of equipment are readily available, regulatory bodies like OSHA could point to other scripted standards like this standard and say that is a best practice, that type of equipment is readily available. So it is the duty of you as an employer to make that available to your employees. So even though it is not directly enforceable by OSHA, it will give a formal script as to what can be used, and therefore regulatory bodies like OSHA could point to things like that under the general duty clause or through a letter of interpretation, for example.